by some or all members of council, staff, or the public. The chair has established the following rules for this hearing. Following the staff and applicant presentations, we will go through the established speakers list. At the end of the speakers list, the chair may call for any other speakers not on the speakers list. You will have 5 minutes to address council for a first time. Begin your remarks to council by stating your name. After everyone who wishes to speak has spoken once, speakers will then be allowed one additional 5-minute opportunity. Any additional presentations will only be allowed at the discretion of the chair. Please do not repeat information from your previous presentations and ensure your comments remain focused on the bylaws under consideration this evening. If you've provided a written submission, there is no need to read it as it will have already been seen by the council. You may summarize or briefly reiterate the highlights of your submission, but ensure your comments pertain to the bylaws under consideration at this hearing. All members of the audience are asked to be respectful of one another as diverse opinions are expressed. Council wishes to hear everyone's views in an open and impartial forum. Some important notes about public hearings. Council is here to listen to the public, not to debate the merits of the bylaws. Council may ask clarifying questions. The corporate officer has a binder containing documents and submissions related to the bylaws, which council has received and which you are welcome to review. This is available at the table next to the door and online at dnv.org/agenda. Everyone at the hearing will be provided an opportunity to speak. If necessary, we will continue the hearing on a second night. At the conclusion of the public input, council may request further information from staff, which may or may not require an extension of the hearing, or council may close the hearing, after which council should not receive further new information from the public. Finally, please note that this hearing is being held via Zoom and recorded in accordance with the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And at this time, I'll call on the corporate officer to read the bylaw into the record.
Thank you. District of North Vancouver Official Community Plan Bylaw 7900-2011, Amendment Bylaw 8706-2024, Amendment 55. Bylaw 8706 proposes to amend the OCP land use designation of the subject site from residential level 2, detached residential, RES2, to residential level 3, attached residential, RES3, and designate the subject site as development permit area for form and character of commercial, industrial, and multifamily development, and a development permit area for energy and water conservation and greenhouse gas emission reduction. Heritage Revitalization Amendment or Agreement Authorization Bylaw 8671-2024, 1120 Harold Road, Cross Residence. Bylaw 8671 is a proposed heritage revitalization agreement authorization bylaw, which would allow the district to enter into an agreement with the property owner to relocate the Cross Residence to a new location on the property, restore and rehabilitate the Cross Residence, convert the Cross Residence to 2 dwelling units, construct 4 additional dwelling units on the property, construct a total of 7 parking spaces, and require the owner to conserve, protect, and preserve the Cross Residence in accordance with the Heritage Revitalization Agreement. Heritage Designation Bylaw 8688-2024, 1120 Harold Road, Cross Residence. Bylaw 8688 is a proposed heritage designation bylaw, which would designate the subject property in the exterior of the Cross Residence as a protected heritage property.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll look to staff for a staff presentation. Welcome Liam Butler here to make the staff presentation. You have up to 15 minutes, but approximately how long is your presentation?
That
9 minutes? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. When you're ready.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Great. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council and members of the public. My name is Liam Butler and I'm a development planner with the district. The public hearing is for the proposed redevelopment of one existing single-family property at 1120 Harold Road. The site is one existing single-family house, known as a Cross Residence, pictured left above, which is currently unoccupied and the subject of this application. The proposal is for the relocation, restoration, and permanent protection of the Cross Residence and infill housing surrounding the rehabilitated heritage resource. The proposal will be for 6 stratified units across 4 buildings, including 7 car parking spaces and 1 visitor space, including 1 visitor space. The proposal is seeking an official community plan amendment, heritage revitalization agreement, and a heritage designation. Our presentation is 12 slides long and approximately 9 minutes in length. The site outlined above is in the Lynn Valley neighbourhood area, near the corner of Harold Road and From Road, northwest of the Lynn Valley Town Centre. The site is proximate to several bus routes along East 29th Street, Lynn Valley Road, and Mountain Highway, and west of the Lynn Valley Elementary School. As shown in the aerial map above, surrounding properties include a mix of single detached homes and multifamily townhouse developments. As shown above, there's been consistent development over the years of several other projects of comparable form and density nearby along Harold Road and Sunnyhurst Road. This proposal has been reviewed against and is in alignment with the district policies, including the official community plan, the Heritage Strategic Plan, the Rental and Affordable Housing Strategy, and the Lynn Valley Local Plan. In particular, the proposal will meet various goals and actions of the policies by permanently protecting a valuable community heritage resource in the Cross residents. The proposal is seeking a Heritage Revitalisation Agreement, or HRA, and heritage designation. This is the first HRA in 8 years within the district. For this reason, I'll be spending a little bit longer on these slides to talk through the process. A HRA is a legal tool under the Local Government Act with a specific focus to incentivise the preservation of heritage resources. It is a voluntary legal agreement and negotiated between a municipality and owners of a heritage property, requiring approval from council. These agreements allow a municipality to negotiate with an applicant, among other items, additional development rights, variances to the requirements of zoning, and other bylaws relating to the heritage property. The proposed amendments to OCP and zoning include official community plan designation from RES2 that allows a FSR of up to 0.55 to RES3 that allows up to 0.8, or in this instance, a 0.71 FSR. Variances to building setback and height provisions of the RS4 zone, and variance to the required parking of Part 10 of the zoning bylaw. Entering into a HRA allows a significant heritage resource such as the Cross residents to be permanently protected through heritage designation and a restoration covenant. This will bind current and future owners to the duties and obligations to maintain the heritage resource. A statement of significance and conservation plan have been prepared by Donald Loxton and Associates and outlines the preservation, restoration, and rehabilitation works that occur as part of this proposal of the Cross residents building and surrounding infill development. As detailed in these reports and the images above, the character defining elements of the Cross residence are the framing, wraparound veranda, porch elements, wood trims, window assemblies, and scale and massing. Notably, all these character defining elements will be retained and rehabilitated as part of this proposal. As detailed in the elevations above, the Cross residence is a two-storey Edwardian era 4-square residential building built in circa 1905 by the original owner, George Cross. It is considered one of the oldest houses in the Lynn Valley area. The proposal will relocate the Cross residence to the southwest corner of the site, allowing the house to prominently feature on the high point of the site, as well as enabling a pedestrian corridor, infill development, associated parking, and a shared driveway along the eastern property line. The proposal will also remove the existing non-original addition and replace with a new contemporary addition located in the northern portion of the building. This addition will allow the house to be split into 2 smaller units. A key clause of this HRA is for the applicant to provide a building conditions report prepared by a qualified structural engineer prior to and post relocation of the Cross residence to ensure that it's structurally sound pre and post relocation and capable of future occupancy. Further, any proposed changes to the heritage property and any other building components on site will require a heritage alteration permit, subject to approval by the district's manager of plan and properties and permits. The site outlined above consists of one legal lot, approximately 1,323 square meters in area. Currently, the historic Cross residence sits in the central portion of the lot. The lane at the rear is unopened and not anticipated to be open soon. The proposal includes 6 stratified units and 4 2 to 2.5 story detached buildings as follows. The Cross residence, detailed in red above, with units 1 and 2, will be relocated to the southwest of the site, fronting Harold Road. A new duplex with units 3 and 4 is proposed alongside the Cross residence, facing Harold Road, and 2 coach houses, both units 2 and 5, are proposed at the rear of the site. In total, the site will provide a gross floor area of 939 square meters or 0.71 FSR. Vehicle access to the site is obtained via a shared driveway along the eastern property line indicated in blue. This access leads to 7 car parking spaces, including 1 visitor space at grade, as well as contained within the lower garages of units 4 and 6. Importantly, all new infill developments are designed to complement rather than mimic the architectural features of the original cross residence. The infill housing will be appropriately set back by approximately 6 meters from the front and rear facade of the cross residence to ensure its prominence. The heritage house and the proposed infill housing is shown above as seen from an aerial rendering. Notably, while this rendering does not show the off-site improvements I'm about to speak to, I assure you that these works are detailed in the preliminary design drawings included as part of the public hearing package and are a condition of the HRA and development covenant. The applicant team presented to the Community Heritage Advisory Committee along with district planning staff on October 25th, 2023. Overall, the committee supported the general concept as presented. The applicant held a virtual public information meeting for a 2-week period between January 22nd to February 5th, 2024. Notification of the public engagement process was undertaken in accordance with district policy. During this period, 25 comments were received with the majority in favour of the proposal. A copy of all the public input received regarding the projected date is included in the public hearing binder. The key issues raised by the public during the virtual PIM process related to on-site load-in, insufficient on-site parking, lack of a sidewalk, and stormwater management. The applicant responded to these issues as follows. No large-scale load-in need is anticipated for a project of this size. Loading and unloading for future residents will occur via the order court at the rear of the site. The site is proximate to the Lynn Valley Town Centre, several bus routes, and will provide ample on-site bicycle parking. For these reasons, the reduction in vehicle parking from 2 to 1 space per unit is supported by staff. A new sidewalk and boulevard tree planting will be provided along the Harold Road frontage to the corner of From Road. A stormwater management and erosion control plan has been developed in accordance with district policies and regulations. The proposal will benefit the community through the retention of one of the earliest houses constructed in the Lynn Valley area, as well as making use of an underutilized property and lot, I should say. As seen above, the application proposes several off-site improvements, including a new sidewalk, curb and gutter, streetlight upgrades, and street tree planting, beginning at the intersection of From Road and Harold Road, and terminating at the eastern property line. These works total approximately $156,000. The district's development cost charges are estimated at $127,000. In summary, the proposal will conserve in perpetuity a Class A heritage building for the district and community. The proposal will develop an underutilized and unoccupied lot. The proposal will provide off-site improvements along the Harold Road frontage through to the corner of From Road. The proposal is in alignment with the key district policies through the protection of a valuable heritage resource. For these reasons, staff have supported the bylaws for OCP amendment, heritage revitalization agreement, and heritage designation. Thank you for listening. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you for your presentation. I'd rather go to public input first and then come to council questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll invite the applicant to come up and do their presentation. Is the applicant present?
They're virtual.
They're virtual. Okay.
The original person had to call in sick, but they're connecting virtually. All should be.
Okay, so if you are, do we have them pulled over here? I see Paul Phillips there. Okay. Is Paul Phillips the speaker? I believe Paul Phillips, are you the representative of the applicant joining the meeting this evening? They may just still be coming over.
Hello.
Hello, is this Paul Phillips?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and you're representing the applicant this evening?
Yes, from EDG Homes, the applicant, yes.
Okay, welcome. I can hear you clearly. You have 15 minutes to make the applicant's presentation.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and councillors. I apologize for this online presentation. we did have a person in attendance, but they've called in ill this morning. I'm currently out of country and I'm trying to do this on a PowerPoint, but I'm unsuccessful. I apologize. I'm in New Zealand, actually, my mother's 99th birthday, which was already committed before this meeting. So hopefully we can get this through anyway and celebrate the Heritage House's birthday at some point. But I'm sorry, I don't know if I can continue really without the drawings. Liam did a grand job explaining the process. And other than to say that this has been a 2-year project and we've worked very hard at meeting the district's goals. And in an effort to save the Heritage House, we've gone to great lengths to even go beyond what we might normally do with a Heritage House in trying to create a pastoral setting on the site by creating the mews down the middle to kind of further enhance the historical significance of the Cross House and provide 6 hopefully affordable and varying size homes, coach houses with 2 bedrooms and a den that would enable senior living in an age in place that has a bathroom on the main floor, some 3-bedroom homes and a 2-bedroom home. So a variety of scale of size that meet the rental and affordable housing strategy that the district would like to see diversified. And we're in an area that's close to within 5 minutes walk of the Lynn Valley Town Center. So that's the goal of trying to meet the green initiatives and targets of the district by retaining the existing building on the site. Obviously, minimizing any landfill, low energy heating and cooling systems, stormwater retention on the site, generous green spaces around the site. It's a large site, and we've tried to keep it as green as possible for rainwater retention and also for the residents' outdoor enjoyability, livability. And it's in a location that is close to the town center, so it's promoting walking and providing abundant biking parking on site in lieu of the reduced parking that we've provided because of the site constraints. And I think Liam has covered most of the points that I would have otherwise presented on our slides. So I would like to thank the council for considering this application for the cross residents, and hopefully it'll meet a much needed missing middle housing that will allow families and seniors an opportunity to live close to the Lynn Valley Town Center and save a significant heritage resource in the district. And I'll be available online here for any questions that may come up. And the heritage consultant from Donald Luxon, Paula, is in the audience, I think. But again, I'm not sure, Paula, if you have drawings to access to show council. Can I pass it to the
So we do have, thank you, Liam. I do have Paula Rodriguez here in the council chambers. Just checking in with Liam, my understanding is that you may have a copy of the applicant's presentation. Perhaps we can put that slide up, and then maybe if Paul is able to add any comments slide by slide, we'll use the time that way if possible.
Yeah, am I still on audio?
Yes, you are, but Liam is just gonna bring the presentation that you sent him up on the system. And maybe he'll just go slide by slide. And if you want to pause and make comments along the way, we may be able to piece that together.
Great, thank you. I apologize for this.
No, it's understandable.
Okay, it's up now, Paul, if you want to talk through it.
Yeah, could you jump to the historical, the Luxton slides, please? I think it's slide 5. Yes. Is that the first?
Hello?
And we have Paulo's come to join here. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. My name is Paula.
I'm gonna get you speaking
Sorry,
nice
yeah.
and loud into that microphone, please.
Thank you. Okay, so my name is Paula, not Donna Luxon, but I'm part of the team at Donna Luxon. We're the heritage consultants on this project. We've been engaged for quite some time, and we are happy to see this project move forward. I am here obviously in support, and just I want to very briefly highlight the historical context and importance of the cross residence, which was built in 1905. Liam did a wonderful job at covering the basics. Perhaps we can move on to the next slide if we want to. In the context of the city, the historical roots of North Vancouver run very deep, beginning with the Squamish people who have inhabited the area for over 8,000 years. The arrival of non-Indigenous settlers in the 1860s marked a significant shift, driven by the establishment of sawmills along the Broad Inlet. These industries brought workers and their families, spurring community growth. By 1891, the District of North Vancouver was formally incorporated, setting the stage for continued development. And this sense of early settlement and growth is embodied in the residence. And it's one of the things that we want to highlight for its importance. Next slide. The early 20th century saw North Vancouver flourish due to the economic growth and urbanization. Specifically, the introduction of a regular ferry service in 1903 connected the North Shore to Vancouver, making the area more accessible to families and attractive. The cross residence was constructed during this boom, symbolizing the optimism and expansion of the time. This is another of the elements that we want to highlight for the residents. Next slide. The legacy of the Cross family. The Cross residence carries the legacy of George and Mary Cross, who were among the first families to settle in Lynn Valley. They arrived in 1905, the same year that the house was constructed. They lived in there with their 6 children. Initially, part of a 3.5 hectare farming property, the land was later subdivided, which was a common practice as families adopted or adapted to changing economic circumstances. George Cross lived in the home until his death in 1926, followed by his wife in 1930, so a few years later. Their youngest son, Chester, who became a local soap maker, remained in the house until the 1940s, and subsequent owners maintained the residence as a family residence, continuing its residential use. On to the next slide. For its architectural significance, architecturally, as you can see in this photo, this is the earliest photo that we could find before 1911, which shows the original form of the residence. It's a prime example of Edwardian four-square style architecture. The home features a rectangular shape and hipped roof, large windows to maximize natural light, and a wraparound veranda, which was added in 1911. Maybe that's, I think, the next slide that covers. Yeah, so this is in 1911 when the veranda was added, and it's not entirely original to the house, but it is an important heritage item. It definitely has historic value, so we wanted to preserve it. And on the next slide, this is the statement of significance for the cross residence, which covers the description of the place. Most importantly, it lists the character defining elements, which were all thoughtfully considered throughout the design process. We wanted to be as respectful as we could with the house in the preparation of the conservation strategy. I'll maybe pass the presentation to Paul to go into the details.
Hello. Yes, thank you, Paula. Yes, Liam, if you could go please to the slide that the proposal for landscape plan. Landscape, that's the one, yes. I'd just like to address this. Paula's described the heritage building and the restoration and retention of it. I'd just like to talk briefly about the new duplex on the front east side of the lot. What we've attempted to do here is to replicate the single family nature of the street on the north side of Howell Road, although the south side is, as Liam's noted, has many multi-family projects. We have attempted to give the context of single family dwellings when looking from the street. So there's only one front door facing the street in the new duplex, the new two-family dwelling on the east of the heritage home. The entry to the rear unit is down the common mews, as all the units are. They all access from the common open area down the middle of the site. And then the two rear infill buildings, also their entries are off the common mews. They're 1.5 stories, and they are buffered and screened from the north neighbors across the unfinished lane by the existing green landscape there. There's some trees, some mixed shrubbery that will be retained. There has been public notification periods in response. There was some concern about trees being lost. We would have liked to have saved as many trees as we were possible, but the arborist and also the district arborist recommended removal of many of them. They're diseased and in poor shape. And there's actually a couple of invasive species. There's a holly tree or two of them in the front of the site that we would have liked to have seen saved, but they were by the staff recommended they be removed. So in place of those trees, we're proposing 11 new trees for the site and 3 new trees on the boulevard. And then the other areas are noted as grass and small shrubs. And just using this landscape plan as a basis, as Liam has noted, that the heritage home will be converted into 2 units. One of them, the heritage home, the original house, will be a 2-bedroom unit. The rear of the unit 2 will be a 3-bedroom, accessed off the mews. The new 2-family to the east will be 2 3-bedroom half duplexes, or like 2 3-bedroom units, 2 of them, with on 3 levels, with a lower ground floor accessing the attached garage below. And the 2 rear infills, 2-bedroom and den. Both of them are 2-bedroom and den, with the den being able to be potentially a bedroom in the future, or when the resident requires it, with also a full bathroom on the main floor, so to allow aging in place. Liam, please, if you could just go to the next slide. It's Coach House's proposal. No, sorry, there's no Coach House proposal there. Well, this will do though. I'll note that the 2 infill proposals in the back behind the heritage home and the new 2-family dwelling, the massing has been recessed and stepped back from the 2 adjacent neighbors to respect their privacy and overshadowing. And there's no windows proposed on either side at any of the upper levels. So we've considered the impact to the neighbors on both east and west side. And as I mentioned before, across the unopened lane to the north, they're 20 feet away to their property line, which is also screened by existing landscaping. The materials on those 2 infill coach houses are consistent and not replicating the heritage home, but they're complementary and sympathetic to it, to create a nice harmonious little community there. And hopefully that's our hope, is that the 6 occupants of the future occupants here it'll form a community with the common mews, open spaces, and easy walking and biking access to the town center. If you would Liam, if you could please take us to the last, well, to the benefits of the District of North Van. I have a minute left, a minute 30. Just to reiterate the heritage retention, the benefits to the District of North Vancouver, the heritage retention of a significant historical resource, and with the added value that we're trying to create a pastoral setting, a more open, generous setting for the benefit of the community, but also for the residents as well. And in the neighborhood impact, we hope to minimize by creating a single family look from the front and being sympathetic to the laneways, the infill buildings that don't encroach upon the neighbors. Providing family and senior homes, the 2-bedroom and dens and 3-bedroom units that will hopefully achieve the missing middle gap that we currently have in the market. And a green focused development that is transit orientated with close to Lynn Valley, plenty of bike spacing, parking on site, retaining the existing building. And I think I spoke about this earlier when I was talking before Liam opened this up. So we're hopeful that this will be a very successful project when it's built. If you could go to the last slide, please, Liam, with the rendering there. That's the result will be just a lovely, hopefully a reminiscent of a memory of what the Cross House was in this nice open pastoral setting, as well as introducing some new, much needed family and senior homes. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, moving on to the public. The first speaker I have, I believe it's Julie Vertball. Would that be correct? Actually, we're going to clear this area out there and make that available to you. Welcome. When you're comfortable, you have 5 minutes to address the public hearing.
I won't take that long. Good evening. I am Julie Vetvold, and I live in the immediate area within a 2-block radius of it. So I have been here since the mid-70s. So I have seen major changes in what has happened in the district and what has happened specifically within Lynn Valley. And I want to say thank you for considering this proposal. I am in favor of it. I think it is respectful. I think it is a measured and controlled approach for the community that provides the housing that they've been speaking of. But it also respects the character of the neighborhood that we're in there with single family and the look of single family. So for me, it provides the needed housing that isn't an either or a binary approach to it. In other words, you have that alternate approach that looks like single family that provides it, and it still provides the opportunity for people to get into the market without having to necessarily go solely to condos. I really appreciate that. I think that when I did a look, or a little bit of a background check into the developer, I saw that he not only is long-term, but he is very respectful of the heritage homes and wanting to restore them. And it seems to be a measured approach that he's using as well within that. So thank you. Thank you for considering it for a change. It's a positive approach to it. And I'm very appreciative of council considering that as opposed to doing some massive infill that creates more problems this way. It still contributes to the neighborhood. It still contributes to the community as well at large on it. And hopefully you might consider this follow up when the other house on Baird Road comes up with the development going on there, if considering restoration of that or utilizing that to some event as well, that would be greatly appreciated. But ultimately, thank you for this consideration.
Thank you very much for your comments, Julie Workball. Would anybody else like to speak a first time to this item? Virtual participants can raise their virtual hands as well, and we'll get them moved over as panelists. Yes, on the aisle here. Come on up, welcome. When you're comfortable, you have 5 minutes to address the hearing. It'd be appreciated if you start with your name and approximate address for the record. Thank you.
Oh, certainly. Good morning or good evening, Your Worship and Council.
My name is Gresh Marshall. I'm a owner resident living nearby this proposed development on Baird Road. So basically a block and a half away. Let me begin by saying that I am basically in favor of new home construction and population densification. I've viewed the general information that's been available concerning the property at 1120 Herald. The main questions and concerns that I have relate to street parking, pedestrian safety, and the capacity of our storm sewers and sanitary sewers. Some of this may have already been mentioned in some of the more recent updates, but I'm not familiar with them. Let me start with street parking and driving safety. Herald Road is already a very crowded street, and it's difficult to drive on Herald between Baird and Frome Road without pulling off to the side and having to alternate with cars going the opposite direction down that single lane that's remaining because of all the parked cars. Add to the regular parked vehicles, the situation's a lot more challenging when it comes to delivery vehicles. Canada Post is a bad culprit, parking anywhere, it seems, but also other delivery trucks like Amazon, UPS, and the like. They often park in the middle of the road or park illegally near intersections. There needs to be some reserved and designated short-term parking available for deliveries or other services like home care for serving this area in general, but this residence development in particular. If residents of 1120 Herald have more than one car, which is a likelihood, the whole matter of street parking becomes even more problematic. So the question posed here is, what plans does the district have to address these kinds of situations on the street? Next is public safety, pedestrian safety, pardon me. With crowded street parking and a patchwork of sidewalks along Herald, pedestrians have to be extremely careful, especially when it's dark. Walking on the west side of Herald towards Frome Road is particularly hazardous when you walk on the left side, as you're supposed to do, walking facing oncoming traffic. Vehicles are often parked too close to the corner. There aren't any sidewalks on that side of the road there on the last block. And cars turning from Frome Road down onto Herald are often coming, not speeding, but quick for somebody who's on foot and very little space to react. So the question here I would put is, what measures are being taken by the district and or the developer to ensure that pedestrians can walk safely along this route? And again, some of this may have been addressed with some of the sidewalks that were mentioned in the presentation prior. But other things to be considered up on Frome Road or nearby are flashing crosswalks or broader areas around the corners where parking is prohibited, so that we don't have that crowding between pedestrians and vehicles. And finally, sewers. Our storm sewer system already seems to be stressed, and the prospect of larger and more frequent weather events leads to concerns whether the sewers will be overloaded. During the most recent atmospheric river event, several homes in the nearby area experienced flooding, and water on Baird Road was quite close to running down my own personal driveway. So I'm concerned that we have the ability, the capability and capacity of the sewers to handle that. So the question out is, do the current district sewers, both sanitary and storm sewers, have the capacity to handle this development and other ones that will most assuredly be taking place along this road? That is it for my presentation. Thank you for listening to me. And I look forward to hearing back on some of these concerns and questions.
Thank you very much for your comments. If you want to, we have a black tray on the table there, and staff will scan it and share it with council as well. Okay, would anybody else here or virtually like to address the hearing a first time? So I've got over here and then back there, so please. Welcome. When you're ready, you have 5 minutes to address the hearing. Appreciate if you'd start with your name and approximate address for the record.
Sure. My name is Bruce Jenner and my address is 1137 Harold Road. So we're the residents immediately across the street from this development. Really encouraged to see this move forward. The one concern I'd like to bring to your attention is the parking on site, not the street parking, that's a disaster. But Sunnyhurst, which is kind of where our house is off Sunnyhurst, it's a laneway house, is full of multi-family developments like this that have lots of parking in the lane, which is basically just large storage lockers because very few cars can actually fit in the size of the parking garages that all these places were built with. And this looks, I don't say the exact dimensions, but looks about the same. I used to park in my garage when I had a Miata. I replaced it with a slightly larger convertible, which I could get out of without opening the doors. But with my current vehicle, I couldn't even turn it in the laneway to get it in the garage. So that's my concern, is that that you look realistically at the size of the garages, and are they really going to be used, or are they just going to be more cars on the street, and that street can't support any more vehicles? That's it.
Thank you very much. Next speaker we have from the back there. Again, welcome. When you're comfortable, you have 5 minutes to address the hearing, and start with your name and approximate address for the record, please.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. My name is Christy Petisick and I live at 3110 From Road. My family has been at that address for just about 40 years, and I have seen many changes to our neighborhood, including comings and goings at Crossroad, from it being the site of a once beautiful home to TV shows such as the X-Files, etc. I am in favor of development. I think it's great for our neighborhood. However, my main concern comes in terms of emergency vehicles. Like some of my others have mentioned, parking and space on Harold is an absolute disaster as it is now. And I'm afraid, much to the kitty corner street of Shakespeare, if those cars are parked on both sides of the road, you can't get an emergency vehicle down there. There is not enough space. And I'm concerned that with the aging population in my neighborhood, this is going to become a real factor. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anybody else like to address this hearing for a first time? See a virtual hand from Corey Cost. We can move Corey Cost over as a panelist, please. Corey Cost, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Your Worship. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you clearly. Welcome. You have 5 minutes to address the hearing.
Okay, as you know, I'm a sort of numbers person. And so I look for the information in these kind of reports. Overall, I think this is a great idea to preserve some heritage, especially quality heritage in this area. I noticed that the FSR is about 0.71 and there's 970 square meters of floor space. But what's missing is the not easy to find. I think on page 213 of the additional information, you'll find in very fine print, too hard, I think, for most people to read, that the site coverage was originally 12% and you're allowed 35%. And I think they went some 500 square feet over that. So something like maybe 40%. It's not a huge increase, but it would be nice to have these key numbers in a more visible part of the report. By the way, when you speak about trees and I find time after time, it doesn't matter which proposal or which lot comes in to council, almost all the trees tend to be unhealthy. I've yet to find a lot which has healthy trees on it. Finally, the final point is, even though this is just homes, it'd be nice to have seen a shadow study of how much one building interferes with the enjoyment of some sunshine. And it'd be useful to have, but no shadow studies I could find anywhere. So that's my comments. Just from a technical point of view, I think it's a good proposal, but I would like to see the key numbers more visible in future presentations like this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Corey Cost. Okay, just checking back in. Would anybody else like to address the hearing for a first time? Okay, so I see no further speakers for a first time. So what I'm going to do now is check back in with council. Council, there's been some questions that have been circulated to staff. And so I guess I'm going to have, there's a list of questions, Councillor. If you'd like to add your question to the list, you're more than welcome. It's on the chat. So staff, some questions have been circulated. If you could read the questions into the record and provide your response, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we have a few questions received. The first question.
Can you get your microphone right in front of you, please? Thank you.
I'm sorry. Hello. So we have received some questions, Your Worship. The first question is, what is the difference between community heritage register and then heritage inventory? So the heritage register allows the district to formally recognize the property that are deemed to have significant historic merits and importance, and which in turn allows staff to monitor that and then review the process, review the development review process under the guidance of the Local Government Act. So the heritage inventory was mainly two lists historically that accounted for some identified historic sites. I believe the first one was done in 1983 and then further updated in 1993. And what they're identified is basically based on the field review and then some relatively light research. Those properties are identified by the year they were built and then the condition they were in, that potentially they could have heritage value. And so then the residents and properties on that inventory list are invited to be formally recognized as part of the register. The second question we have is, what will this mean for the Cross residents to receive heritage designation? So designation is something even further. So designation is done by bylaw and will ensure the permanent protection of the Cross residents, and that any future changes to it and other building components on the site would require a heritage alteration permit. So, so this is the highest level of protection for heritage properties. The next question, maybe I'll let Mr. Butler to take over.
Thank you, Yan. The next question from council is in relation to, can the applicant please clarify the number of units in each of the proposed 6 units? Paul, I understand you can speak to this one.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Paul, we can hear you.
Yes. Yes, I did actually mention that in the presentation. I'm sorry, it's probably a bit muddled with that. PowerPoint, but I can clarify, in the existing heritage home with the addition, that is 2 units in there. The front unit will be a 2-bedroom on the upper of the beds on the upper floor. The rear unit of the historical home will be 3 bedrooms on the upper floor. So it's a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom. In the new 2-family to the east, at the front of the site, there will be a 3-bedroom on the upper floor with a basement level games room that has access to a attached garage at the front. And then the rear unit of that front building is a 3-bedroom on the upper floor with also space, a small space in the basement for storage and various things. So there's also bike storage accommodated in the lower floors of those 2 units in the front building. So those are both 3 bedrooms. That's 2 3s. In the rear coach house, behind the new 3-bedroom front building is a 2-bedroom and den. So 2 bedrooms on the upper floor. On the main floor, access from grade, is a den, which could be used as a bedroom. And that floor also has a full bathroom. So we could say that's a 3-bedroom, or it could be used as a 2-bedroom and a den. And then the other coach house behind the heritage home is 2 bedrooms on the upper floor. On the main floor, a den or a bedroom, possibly, with a full bathroom also on that floor. So that could also be a 3-bedroom, but it's designed as a 2-bedroom and den. So the summary of that is basically 6 strata homes. There'll be 1 2-bedroom, 2 2-bedrooms and a den, and 3 3-bedrooms.
Thank you. I think that answers the question.
Okay, thank you. The next question is the project over our policy on lot coverage? And if so, will there be a subsequent variance permit, or is that covered under this process? So I wanted to respond to that this variance will be covered under this current process. And I wanted to further add to that even though it was mentioned that there is a site coverage maximum of 35%, and that is really based on the existing RS4 zoning for the site. And what we're looking at is something between a single family and then a sort of lower density townhouse. And so if we were to be having a comparable zone, the site coverage would be significantly higher than 35%. So we don't have a comparison benchmark, so we just use 35. So, and then granting a variance to that. So.
But that's covered under the bylaws as proposed.
As we discussed tonight, yes, affirmative.
Thank you.
And then the next question, I will also take the next question. For the laneway house the question is about whether all the entire development, including the coach houses, are stratified. And then the answer is yes, they are stratified.
So just to clarify. Sorry, I think part of the challenge is the interchange part, the use of both the term coach houses and townhouses. There's 6 units, of which 2 of them are what we would call coach houses, but we call townhouses. 6 units in total.
Yeah. Yes, through your worship, I can confirm. I think there are 2 infill units at the rear lane, and that is the laneway home, that is the coach houses, that is the infill building. So it is sort of referring to the 2 infill structure at the back. So.
But the proposal is all 6 of the units will be stratified.
Yeah, can be stratified. It will be stratified. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that noise, I don't know what the source of the noise is. We'll turn off all of the additional mics in the room, but
I think it's Herman's.
I think it was the main, it may have been, we'll say it was Herman's. Okay.
Okay, yeah, we've got another question from council as well. So there's quite a few different questions here. I'll rattle them off one by one. Can you show where the parking is for each of the units? Is there a sidewalk? How will water be dealt with on the site? What are future plans for management of parking? How realistic is it to assume that there will not be additional cars besides the ones that have been identified by the number of parking spots? So I'll address the first couple of questions. So can you please, can you actually go to the. Okay, yeah.
That's what I
Nice, okay. So there'll be two garages as part of unit 4 here, and then you've got one visitor space located here, another residential space, and then you've got 3 within the basement of unit 6 as well.
5 enclosed and 1 outside, plus an additional visitor space.
Yep, correct. All accessed by the eastern.
So all the parking for all the units are on the east side?
All in, so three of which are in the basement of unit 6, and then 2 of which are in the basement of unit 4. And then you've got the 2, sorry, the cursor's not.
Yes. There's no parking in unit 5 or the Heritage House.
Yeah.
They don't get parking.
No. So those, you can't see the numbers. Then they've got, there's 1 space dedicated to each unit, and then you've got 1 visitor space as well.
But for the vehicles to get to the Heritage and Unit 5, I believe on the map, there'll need to be some sort of easement for them to travel to that space, like.
It would,
It is Herman. It's a barrel, it's common property of a strata, correct?
yeah.
Okay.
And if Paul wants to add anything further for the location of the parking as well.
Okay, I believe there were a couple of other questions in that one question.
So the question there in relation to, is there a sidewalk? Yes, there'll be a sidewalk proposed along the Harold Road frontage. And so that was also a question raised by the public as well. I know that currently there's not a sidewalk on the northern portion of Harold Road. That'll be continuing the form on the southern portion of Harold Road that already has a sidewalk, and it'll extend through to the corner of From Road as well, in addition to street planting that's been proposed. Next question was how water be dealt with on the site. We've undertaken our stormwater management review, so the applicant submitted a stormwater management control plan and erosion sediment control plan. Apologies, my notes are over there. I can pick up the questions again over there if it's easier. Yeah, thanks.
Unless you prefer to just read it in. You ready?
Yeah, perhaps.
So the next question, sorry, are you prepared to respond to the water question or? Well, Phil Donahue, you've now got a mobile and.
Every night we have technical difficulties in this room.
So Liam, if you could restate the question before your response, please.
Yep. So in terms of how water be dealt with on the site, so the applicant has submitted a stormwater management and erosion sediment control plan. It's been developed in accordance with district policies and regulations, and it's been supported by staff. This plan will use the 3 modular stormwater detention tanks located under the proposed driveway and pedestrian pathway. On-site stormwater will be captured via catch basins or sumps placed throughout the site. Further, throughout construction, erosion control will be managed using a sediment pond, filtration pumps, and strict silt content requirements for discharge of water off-site.
Yeah, so I'm going to provide some high-level response about the remaining questions, which is what are the future plans for management of parking and how realistic is to assume that there will be no additional cars beside the ones that have been identified by the number of parking spots. So we don't have transportation engineering tonight with us, and we are not able to answer whether there is any future plans for parking management in the area. And what I can say in general that staff constantly monitor neighborhood traffic and constantly, identify those choke points and come up with plans to identify, deal with them in a sort of priority-based fashion as part of the transportation plan. You know, can we guarantee that there is no additional cars besides the one identified on the plan? We cannot, right? I think what we are looking at through the individual rezoning application or HRA, in this case, an application, is we're looking at the parking regulation and under the zoning bylaw, and looking at the proposal and looking at the size of the unit, and then what kind of car ownership it will generate, and whether there is additional transportation demand management measures, and how close it is to a town center. So from that point on, our staff have made a determination that the proposed parking spots for this proposal is adequate and will not provide unforeseen additional traffic on the local network.
Can we just get a comment though from engineering about future management of that area as it begins to densify? We've heard some comments from the community about the parking issues. So I think it's prudent that we include potential management of future parking with future density coming. So can we have a comment from engineering when the report comes back, please?
We can have a comment from engineering when the report comes back. Thank you. Okay, next question and response, please.
So the next question is, are there plans for bike storage on site? I believe there are, and there are 28 bike storage spaces on site.
Apologies. There's 34 bike parking spaces, some of which will be included as part of the garage space and also at the front of the site as well. I'll just go back to the previous question as well. There was another question from council. Does the site need to be subdivided and easements entered into to allow? Oh, okay. So apologies, that's been dealt with.
Because it's a strata with common property, I don't think that needs to be done.
That's all the question we have received so far. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to go back to the room. Would anybody else like to address this hearing for a first or second time? Include the virtual attendees. I have Corey Cost. If we can move him over as a panelist, he'd like to address the meeting for a second time.
Okay, second time, Your Worship. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you clearly. Welcome. You have an additional 5-minute opportunity to speak to the council.
Okay, I need some clarification here about the stratification issue. Normally, when a coach house goes in to a single family home property, I don't believe you allow those coach houses to be stratified. Is that correct? Do they have the same sort of ability there to have an owner different from the main unit? As is the case for this development, it seems like the units are treated more, not like the proposed provincial 4 units on a property where they have only a single owner. Anyway, the whole business of stratification might be setting a precedence on tonight's decision. And I just want to make sure that council is aware of any ramifications it could have on what happens in other single family lots. That's my only clarification request. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Corey Cost. Okay. Are there any other people who'd like to address the hearing a first or second time? So I've got on the aisle and then over here. Welcome.
And thank you again. I've really just got a couple of questions to have more.
Maybe I should address that issue. So it is a public hearing. It is to hear your comments about it. the best time to ask questions was in the lead up period to it before you actually get to the hearing. So we'll do our best, but unfortunately, the hearing time is actually just to hear your comments about the particular item. But you're welcome to speak for 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And I think I'm within what is acceptable here. The presentations were put up on the screen here. We could see drawings. In preparation, trying to prepare for this evening's session, I went out to look for those kinds of drawings. I could not find them anywhere. Is there a place where the public can go and see the drawings, where the parking is, where the sidewalk is, all that kind of thing? And then my second question would be, I know somebody who was not able to attend tonight. If they have some comments or questions, are they able to submit those to council before everything is closed?
That's an important question. Okay, so first let's clarify, were the layouts of the lots included in the public materials on our website, and are they still there and available to the public?
Yes, they are. I was waiting for the clerks to
Okay,
answer that
so
question. Yes, they are, yeah.
dnv.org. If you find tonight's meeting, you go to the council section and you find tonight's meeting, you'll see a public hearing. And then there's the material, there's the agenda, reports, and materials. And in those materials, you'll find the slides that were presented, the DNV slides that were presented at the front end of the meeting.
Okay, very good.
And then the second question is, can your friends still submit information? Yes, however, not directly to the council. And the council is, once this hearing is closed, that is all of that the council is allowed to consider in their decision-making at second and third reading. So additional questions and clarification can still be sent to the staff for them to respond to, but the council, under the hearing rules, has to stop receiving new information when this meeting is closed. Then they'll give their answers at second and third reading. I'm going to go over all this again when we get to the close of the meeting tonight, but that's a fair question. So there you go.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Unless you can email your friend right now and tell them to email in the next 5 minutes, then we can hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know they can't. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So then I believe you expressed an interest to speak a second time.
Yeah, again, Bruce Jenner, and I'm a owner of a strata laneway house directly across, so I don't think it's precedent. I really hope this development can go forward. From what I see here, again, I just want to, it's really important that the garages are sized so that vehicles can fit in them, but also understand how cars can easily get in and out of those locations, because if it's not easy, like if it's a 20-point turn to get out of these places, I don't see how you do it. They're not going to be used as garages. And then it's just 16 rooms worth of vehicles. 16 was the number, 16 bedrooms. How many of those bedrooms have people that drive added to this? The other thing about parking that I haven't seen anywhere, when the road flooded a while ago, a couple of years ago, the fire department kindly moved the fire hydrant to that property because nobody lived there. So, nobody was trying to park in front of it. So it gave us a spot where nobody could park in front of that on that location. But I haven't seen, the fire hydrant is right in that driveway, I think. And I'm just kind of wondering where it's going. Because it wasn't from our place, which was disastrous. And they moved it kindly to this place, but now it's got to move again. I just wonder, I don't see it anywhere. So that would be good to understand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to address the hearing for a first or second time? Okay, so I'm going to check back in with staff. Have you had additional questions from council that you're prepared to provide responses for? If you could read them into the record and then provide your response, that would be appreciated.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So we have a few additional questions. The first one is, are coach houses normally allowed to be stratified? Does this set a precedent that coach houses will be fully stratified? So coach houses, as permitted by the district, currently are not permitted to be stratified. Tonight, what we're talking about is heritage realization agreement specifically made to this particular site, and is akin to a rezoning, and it only applies to this site, so is not going to set any precedent.
Thank you.
And then we have a couple other questions, Liam.
Yep, so the next question came from the public in relation to the size of the garages. So the applicant, they submitted auto turn measurements that were consistent and approved by district plan and staff, demonstrating that there was sufficient maneuvering space from each stall for forward egress from the car park. Because stalls 1 and 2 are specifically reserved for small cars, and because the applicant proposes a large traffic mirror within the car park to provide vehicle users entering the site awareness of any users who are immediately preparing to use the one-way access point off of Harold. And we're happy to provide information with the flight pass to the public who had those concerns as well.
Do you have the specific measurements of the width of the garages? I think that was the point of the question. The interior width of the.
Is it in the ADA or is it a big SUV expedition?
I am going to jump in. I think this might be a very good question for the applicant to answer. I would also say that we also have a further question about where a fire hydrant has been relocated. I think the applicant has been involved in discussion with an engineering staff in depth about the relocation of that. So maybe I hope Mr. Phillips can answer those 2 questions. Paul, are you there?
So Paul Phillip, you are muted in the system. If you can unmute, there you go.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes. Did you hear
Yes,
the
thank
questions
you.
or do you need them reread?
I understand the question is regarding, I think it was from one of the public, a neighbor across the street, Bruce, concerning the garage size and the ability to maneuver in and out of them. Is that the question?
That's the first question. What is the internal width of the garage, the garage units?
Yes, I think there are, I don't actually have the finished drawings in front of me here, I'm sorry, but they comply with the district standard. I think they're like 10'6" wide, but the garages are actually over length. The 3 garages underneath the rear coach house infill laneway are over 26 feet long. So they provide extra length for a longer vehicle inside, and we also showed some bike spaces at the end of the garage. And as staff have mentioned, we conducted a parking maneuverability study and an auto turn study, and addressed concerns from staff about the access. But I just also like to point, there was another comment earlier from the public regarding sidewalk and pedestrian safety. One of the challenges of this site is there is no open lane. Typically on these, you would see access to parking from the rear. And as we have noted along Harold Road, all the parking is accessed off Harold into front-facing garages, and all the other single-family houses adjacent along Harold to the east and to the west reverse out of their garages over there is no sidewalk, but over the potential sidewalk. And so there's a very dangerous situation of conflict with any pedestrians walking along the boulevard and the future sidewalk we propose on Harold. So that was one of our first challenges we faced, and that kind of directed how we approached this site, and that we wanted the vehicles to come out forward. It's a much safer condition, and we've allowed for maneuverability on site rather than on the roads. They're not reversing out onto Harold Road, obstructing traffic and causing problem there. So we believe we've actually made a bad situation better. by conducting all the maneuverability within the site, and vehicles are coming out forward and able to look and see who's coming along coming along Harold, as well as if there's any pedestrians around.
Okay, but
so
just
yeah.
to go back and answer the question, Paul, so the garaged parking stalls will be at least 10'6" of an internal measure. Is that for width? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There was a second question to be directed to you, which is the question of are you moving the fire hydrant service on the property, or is it staying where it currently is?
In discussions with the engineering department of the district, they recommended moving the hydrant. It is noted on the site plans and landscape plans, the current driveway location, which was recommended by engineering to be aligned with the lane across Harold Road on the south side, would conflict with the fire hydrant that's there. So it'll be moved, I think, approximately 6 or 8 feet to the west. So essentially where it is now, but moved to allow for the driveway crossing.
Got it. Okay, thank you very much for the response. Just checking back in with staff. Are there any additional questions at this point? I think they've been
Your worship,
addressed.
no additional questions. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the room and check in again. Would anybody like to address the hearing for a first, second, or third time? Okay, and then exhausting the speakers list sounds a little bit archaic, but I'm going to say this 3 times in a row, and then we'll move on. Would anybody else like to address this hearing for a first, second, or third time? Hearing none, would anybody else like to address this hearing for a first, second, or third time? And for a third and final time, would anybody else like to address this hearing for a first, second, or third time? Hearing none, I'll look to clerk. I believe we've exhausted the public speakers list on this matter. We have no additional questions directed to staff, and so I'm going to ask now for a member of council to come forward with a motion.
I'll move that we close this public hearing and return this bylaw to council.
Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Murray, second by Councillor Ma. Prepared to call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Okay, so what that means is that this item is now closed. And so this is the information that the council has to make their decision when they come back at second and third reading. They can't receive any new or additional information. So you can't communicate directly with the councillors from this point forward. You can, if you still have clarifying questions, you can reach out to district staff and they'll do their best to respond to you. But the council itself actually is not available for additional information at this time. So what's going to happen now is this item is going to stay enclosed until it gets adopted. But the next step is to have second and third reading, which is an opportunity for council to come and give their reasons for or against this particular issue. Check in with the clerk now. Do we have a date in mind for return of this item to second and third reading?
Thank you. Yes, tentatively scheduled for January 13th next year.
So January 13th is a tentatively scheduled date. You will have to review our agendas leading up to that time to see if it's on that agenda. We won't do it earlier than January 13th without major public notification or something else like this, but it may slip at that point. So you do have to monitor the public agendas at that time to see when the item comes back. All right, just checking in. Anything else you need to cover? All right, so thank you very much to staff and the applicant and preparation of all the reports for our consideration tonight. Thank you members of the public for participating in the hearing, and thank you council. Look forward to hearing your deliberations at second and third reading. Everybody have a great night.